They did it. They did it. They did it. They did it. First and foremost, man, congratulations to all my Phoenix Sun fans. Josh got the juice. Arian, my fellow Chicagoan. I'm trying to think of all my other Sun fans. I can't even. My mind is going in so many different places. First and foremost, as always, though, I am your host of NBA Weekly, Pee Wee the Plug, 1/4 through the wire. Number one Knicks fan in the world, aka Mr. Know It All, and the Phoenix Suns are going to the NBA Finals. So many emotions, so many ways to feel, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. First things first, obviously the main thing, Chris Paul finally going to be playing on the NBA Finals floor and on that stage and having a chance to potentially win it. This is a special moment for NBA fans. I don't care how you feel about Chris Paul. If you're a Clipper fan, if you're a Laker fan, whatever, even if you're a team in the East, Hawk or Bucks, that could potentially play Chris Paul and the Suns in the finals to compete for the championship, to see Chris Paul play on this floor and on this stage finally for all of us basketball fans, it's exciting. It's exciting. And it's special for him. And I'm glad it was able to happen this way. Nobody could have predicted this outcome to be this way, or even for him and the Suns to have this chance. A lot of us knew that the Suns were going to be a good team. We saw them last year without Chris Paul when they had Rubio. Before the pandemic started the season, they were really doing a thing. You know, Aiden missed 20 games, which was a big factor for them. And then even in the bubble, for them to go 8-0 and play the type of basketball they played. Obviously, I do have a cousin that plays for the Suns, Javon Carter. Shout out to Cuzzo. This is the emotional part for me, because, I mean, to sit up here and actually hold my cousin's jersey, my real cousin, you know what I mean? Auntie Cynthia, what's going on? This is already surreal. To have a cousin in the NBA, somebody that you've shared moments with as kids, to see him live out his dreams, something that we talked about as kids, and playing basketball and watching Space Jam and things like that. To see him being NBA is crazy. But then to think about him being, even if he's not in a rotation and getting rotational minutes like he was at one point, to just think that he is a part of a team and in the league competing for a championship and could potentially be bringing home a championship ring. I was just with him at his workouts when he came to Chicago this past summer, and you know, he was talking about the impact of Coach Monty and how much this team feels like a team, and like the family aspect of it. You know, before he got his 3-year deal with them this summer, they were still having him come and practice at the facility, get treatment, and treating him as if he wasn't a pending free agent. Just different things like that. So, you know, when I knew that information, and we all, even if outsiders who don't have a cousin on the Suns, you could see the impact and the effect that Monty had as a head coach, James Jones, and the moves he made to get a Jay Crowder, get a Chris Paul. And then for basketball fans like me around my age, you know, I've always kept it honest. One of the people and one of the teams that took my basketball interest through the roof, I've always had a love and passion for it, but from a different perspective, from just I don't even know the word to describe it, but D'Antoni and the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns, for me as a child, really took my interest into it. In-depth interest, to see them playing spaced out. It was ahead of its time, and for me to be 26 now and to see the game move to such a perimeter centric type of game. And when they were doing it, it was 05 or 04, 05. This is 20 plus years ago, and then now to see the league be that type of basketball, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I always give D'Antoni and 7 second or less Suns team all the credit, you know what I mean, and all the flowers, because they were ahead of their time. And I was a big fan of those teams. I loved when they had Nash and Joe Johnson, you know what I mean, Boris Diaw, Amari Stoudemire was a 4. Then they wanted to play faster and they moved him to a 5. Like, I was a fan of that team, and I always rooted for them during the playoffs, and they could never get over that hump like Chris Paul to get to the finals. And I know all my Sun fans, even the younger ones, are going to remember. Those are probably some of y'all first memories as Suns fans of having that exciting team, always on ESPN, Nash being MVP, you're running up and down, Sean Marion is the Matrix, and he's all over the floor, Maurice Duncan. Even after they traded Joe Johnson, Raja Bell, and those guys, I know a lot of my Sun fans remember those days and remember always being this close to get into the finals, just this close, whether it was against the Mavericks, the Spurs, when Amari and those guys ran off the bench after Robert Horry hip checked Steve Nash, and then they got suspended and they lost the game, or when Joe Johnson dunked and fell off the rim and hurt his eye and he could barely see and was playing. I remember those moments as a child, and I hold on to those dearly because that Phoenix Suns team was a team that really took my basketball love through the roof and made me just look at the game from a different perspective. You know what I mean? Just understanding offense and movement and the importance of skill and cutting and playing fast, and you know what I mean? Just gaining my interest from a different perspective, and it take me into, not just a casual fan, but a person that's really trying to grow and know it all and know more. So that's the first 6 minutes of my emotions and why it's scattered. Then on top of that, y'all know I'm a Devin Booker fanatic. Anybody that knows me or know the podcast, know me from Twitter, y'all know I've been defending Booker since the podcast existed. You know what I mean? I got my tweets from 7-8 years worth of me defending him and talking highly of him, from draft night of me saying somebody need to draft Booker, draft him now. From the empty stat arguments with different individuals, to see my guy have that mama mentality, my favorite on the shirt, shout out to Whack Jumper, rest in peace, and even to just that mama mentality be legendary, and him to be on this stage is exciting because he's definitely one of my favorite players, and to have a series where him and Paul George were able to go at it and do their things was good to see. But this game, game 6, It was a Phoenix Suns game, man. It was a Phoenix Suns game. Even early on when it was a bit closer, I was in a party and with the usual suspects, KB, Kenny, Reese was in there. Our homie Kyron was in there. And I was telling them, man, like, this feel like a Phoenix Suns win right here, man. Feel like a Phoenix Suns win, especially when I saw Jay Crowder knocking down those threes. Y'all know my saying is when you get 2 to 3 from Jay Crowder from 3, it's almost over. I mean, once Jay Crowder is giving you 2 or 3 threes, plus any more, you can kind of call it a night for yourself. You can call it a night because that means that his team is usually going to win, and that's exactly what happened. Not to say that it was all about Jay Crowder, because obviously Chris Paul, especially in the end of the game after the Clippers went on that 10-0 run, I made a tweet and I put it out there and I'm saying, man, I know Monty wanted to give Chris Paul a rest, but if I'm Coach Monty, I'm calling a timeout, I'm taking campaign out, and I'm inserting Chris Paul back because the Clippers are going on a 10-0 run and getting right back into this game. And he did exactly that. They call a timeout, insert Chris Paul. First thing Chris Paul does is hit a 3, stops the bleeding, and the rest was history. The rest, we just saw Chris Paul have this moment on his stage, and it was beautiful. He really took over the game. And put his backpack on, and as we now say in the Through the Wire community, as Kyron would say, Chris Paul went out there and he showed his ass. It was good to see him do it on the Staples Center floor, obviously being a former Clipper. And as far as the Clippers go, I mean, Marcus Morris had another solid game where he was trying to step up and make shots. But this really, even outside of a box score statistical numbers, from what I saw from them, it looked like a team that was fatigued. You know what I mean? They hit the end of the road. It was a great run without Kawhi Leonard and the last couple of games without Zubac, but they did look like they finally hit the last bit of gas that they had. Paul George didn't have a disgusting game, but he didn't have a game that you would want from your best player in a game that could potentially send you home or extend the series. You know, I mean, and it's fatigue. It was fatigue. You know, as a Paul George fan, his jump shot didn't look right. He played a very nonchalant, kind of like Game 5, the first half in Game 5, a lot of just clueless, bad passes and turnovers that, could have been avoided, should have been avoided. And the small ball was tough. I mean, Patrick Beverley had his moments early on, knocking down shots, making plays. I think he scored like their first 4 points or first 7 of the 9 points they had. You had some moments from Boogie off the bench, and he actually got a lot of minutes tonight. Batum hit some shots on that 10-0 run. They came, but it just wasn't enough. And we all knew eventually, as great of a Cinderella run they kind of had without Kawhi, during Kawhi's injury, eventually they was going to hit that wall and run out of gas. And it's not a better team that you would much rather see them run out of gas against. It's the Suns, and it's I don't know. It's bittersweet to me because, like I said, and like I've been saying, I'm an NBA fan overall, over my favorite players, over my favorite team. I'm going to always just be a traditional NBA fan, and I'm always going to be on the side of basketball. And to really just have a season like this where it's just unpredictable as it gets is just amazing. And I'm trying my best not to take it for granted and to soak it all in, because I know when next year comes back, everybody's back healthy. We got the juggernauts with a year under their belt playing together. We got other teams trying to make even more moves to get even more better. And this little bit of parity or glimpse of parity or evenness that we have and unpredictability, where it could be the Suns versus Hawks, and you know what I mean, this type of unpredictability, it may not be there. It may not be there next year. It may just be like, oh, it looks like the Brooklyn Nets are gonna make a run, and they probably will, and the Lakers will probably be back in the situation, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's always going to be interesting to see what moves are made and whatnot, of course. But, I definitely don't want to take this moment of unpredictability in basketball for granted, because for the most part, we always usually know who's going to be where when it comes playoff time and championship time. Shout out to DeAndre Ayton. He stepped back up, had some big moments in this game. I know last game they kind of shook them up with the zone and playing small, and he was able to, get situated and make that impact that they had from game 4. You know what I mean? He had some big time offensive rebounds, which I always think is a key game changer for them, for any team. Whenever you can get offensive rebounds and give your team second, third looks, it's going to be a deciding factor. And yeah, he had another double-double, 17 rebounds, 16 and 17. Out of the 17 rebounds, 5 were offensive rebounds. So you're getting your teams 5 extra possessions. That's a lot of points in the grand scheme of things, man. It's a lot of points. Shout out to Torrey Craig off that bench. Torrey Craig had 8 rebounds off that bench, and 4 of his 8 rebounds were offensive. So that's 9 second chance opportunities for the Suns from just 2 players. And then, like I said, Chris Paul, 41 points, 41 and 8. Jay Crowder with 19, giving you 5 out of 9 from behind the arc, which is incredible. Chris Paul, 7 of 8 from behind the arc. Watching the game, I didn't even realize that Chris Paul only missed 1 3. That's why I love watching the game and not checking the box score, because you'll be surprised. Like, I knew he was scoring and I knew he had 40, but I had no idea that he was shooting 7 or 8 from 3 and only missed 1. Devin Booker, 22, 7, and 4. Solid game from D-Book. Nothing crazy. Shot below 40%. Struggled from behind the arc. 1 of 7. But he showed up when it mattered down the stretch. Timely buckets. But yeah, man, a 7 and 7 for Campaign off the bench. Didn't realize he had 7 assists. Like I said, another good team effort. Led by Chris Paul. Devin Booker showed up with what he does. Yeah, Aiden gives you 16, 17 with 2 blocks. They're a 3-headed monster when Aiden is playing like that. And then the offensive rebounds, they speak for themselves. Paul George and Marcus Morris, both 20 apiece. Marcus Morris with 26, 9 and 17, 4 of 11 from 3. Paul George, like Devin Booker tonight, struggling from behind the arc, 1 of 6. Fatigueness for sure. And finished with 21 and 9 himself. And then Reggie Jackson, one of the first times probably all series where he scored below 20 points with only 13, going 4 of 12. And then, DeMarcus Cousins was 12 points in 14 minutes. Luke Kennard only got 13 minutes today. And then Batum gives you 9 and 4. Tough loss for the Clippers. But again, like I said, they had an incredible run, man. They're not going to win a lot of games when they're shooting 30% from 3. They won 12 of 39. And then they shot a fair amount of free throws. They shot 32 free throws. Compared to the Suns shooting only 11. And the Suns went 7 of 11, which is 63%. But yeah, incredible game. Like I said, I'm just extremely happy for all of my Sun fans. For me personally, it all comes full circle and means more to me because I remember being a kid watching those Phoenix Suns teams, watching Steve Nash out of the pick and roll. I remember the game where Steve Nash had the bloody broken nose, which is what they, is now making the same situation with Booker's nose or whatever. But I remember that game. I remember watching them on ESPN and on Sundays on ABC. And it was crazy. I can name random names like Stephen Hunter from those times, in those teams. Casey Jacobson, you know what I mean? Leandro Barbosa. It's just crazy that I can go back in time over 20 years ago and remember being a fan of that team and those teams and just being like, damn. If only they can get over that hump, man. This team is too good to not be winning championships or at least make the finals. And they never, ever, ever could get over that last hump, which now I'm putting everything on the table with my emotions going on camera. And it's hitting me that it's a funny pairing because just like that team and those teams, even with Charles Barkley almost being there and making it lose to the Bulls, it could just never get over that hump. And for them to get over the hump finally with a guy like Chris Paul who could never get over that hump, it's like the perfect marriage of them getting over that hump together, which is the first time I've truly thought about it in my mind. And I'm glad I'm thinking about it and it's coming to me while I'm on camera and y'all getting this raw emotion, real, flow for me because it just shows you how good it is to have these different moments because as a fan, you just don't you never know how things come full circle or when you just sit and think about it for a second, it makes more sense to why you're so riled up. And like I said, man, I'm not a fan of neither one of these teams. I like Devin Booker. I'm related to Javon, so I'm always rooting for four out there. JC for sure. I'm also a Paul George fan, and I'm an NBA fan. I'm a basketball fan, man. So I love seeing guys like Chris Paul get that opportunity. He's an all-time legend. And Monty Williams, James Jones, we got a black executive, black coach, and we could potentially, depending on what's going on with the Bucks and Hawks series and Giannis's injury, if the Hawks can come through, in my lifetime, and in a lot of y'all lifetimes, we would have two black head coaches competing for a NBA championship. With two teams that we didn't expect. And it would just be a lot of history, a lot of unpredictability. It would be just entertaining, and it would be a roller coaster into a roller coaster season. That would be exciting after what we went through the past year. And the season being suspended, and we have to do the bubble, all of that, no fans. And all. We as basketball fans deserve this moment. So like I said, no matter who you're a fan of, who you were rooting for, do not allow yourself to get caught up and get distracted or get in the mindset of taking these moments for granted because we've had so many years of just, I don't know, it can be exciting in its own way when we have rivalries and we have teams who are powerful and are stacked and we can almost predict the exact championship series and who we can expect. It can be exciting, but it to me also can get boring. And it's like I said in one of my past videos, it's the difference between March Madness and the NBA. March Madness every single year is on, popping, exciting because it's that factor of unpredictability. And I feel like for the first time in a very long time, we had that in the NBA this season, where just like college, a Kentucky or a Duke and the powerhouse teams always have a chance, which is like the Lakers, the Nets, hell, even the Clippers. We knew some of these teams, the Sixers, had chances. The Bucks, they have a chance. But you have these other teams sprinkled in who come in and they persevere and they find a way to end up on top. Phoenix is halfway there. We have at least two more games to figure out who they'll be playing. Like I said, to wrap this up, shout out to all my Chris Paul fans like KB. Shout out to all my Devin Booker fans like myself. Shout out to all my Phoenix Sun fans, my real Phoenix Sun fans. My boy Baradis, I know he doing a video right now, probably going crazy. Shout out Cuzzo, JC. I will be rocking this shit all finals. Javon. And man, I could have a family member who's won a championship ring, and I could probably see a real championship ring in person and in my, like in my face, and I've only seen replicas. So it's crazy. It's a surreal moment to think about something like that. But as always, I am Pee Wee the Plug. This is NBA Weekly. If you're new, subscribe, leave that like, leave a comment. I want to know y'all emotions. I want to know who was real Phoenix Sun fans who were there for Boris Diaw and Leandro Barbosa in 7 seconds or less. Do you remember when it was Joe Johnson? Do you remember when it was Quentin Richardson and Roger Bell? Let me know. I even remember when it was Tim Thomas and Kobe Bryant and them had a 3-1 lead and they lost it. I'm out, y'all. Peace.